Well, hello, everyone. I am so honored to be here with all of you and one of the most beautiful people that I've met on my journeys doing what I do, which is a very big honor for all of us. And we have Patricia Cota-Robles with us. And I want to just sort of give a beautiful reminder to everybody that this gorgeous soul is someone that I love personally for so many reasons. I just want to share before just a little bit of a heartfelt moment. I was invited to sing at the 38th World Congress on Illumination last year, which was 2024. And for those beautiful days in Tucson, Arizona, I was very blessed to be with Patricia and everyone that came. And I just want to say how wonderful it was to be with you and everyone at that particular moment. And it was a moment where I feel we did something extraordinary for the world together. And I feel that that moment led to this moment. And this is what happens as we sort of go around our beautiful, beautiful planetary alignments. And I really feel that Patricia is someone that I want to sort of bring into focus for all of the wonderful work that she does with ultimately the company of heaven, which is very much something that I feel called and guided to sort of bring focus to and highlight. So what I'd like to do, first of all, Patricia, is just welcome you. So feel free to share anything on your heart right now.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. It is really an honor to be able, for all of us, to be able to do this work. And I just want to stress, which is always so critical, is that each and every one of us have this magnificent golden thread of life that we have created over eons of time, and everybody's golden thread of life is critical to the unfolding divine plan at this moment. And there may be some people that are more in the outer world and more well known, but there is not a single golden thread that is any more important than every other person's golden thread that's participating in this podcast, or anybody's golden thread on the planet, regardless of sometimes of outer appearances. This is an incredibly special, unique time, and we are all blessed to be here. And I'm blessed to be able to share with you and share with Paul today.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things about you in particular, just because I feel that we live in a society at times where we seem to put this hierarchy on different people. And one of the things that I absolutely love that you sort of always remind everyone is that we are all equals. So I think, well, with the spirit of that, let truly say a namaste to everyone that's joining in. You know, we honor the universe and the beautiful Father, Mother, God within you as we do ourselves in that way. And I think that when we arrive at that beautiful space of just honoring our beautiful brotherly, sisterly love, we have the ability to do wonderful and wondrous, miraculous things together. So I love that you brought that up to start with. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. That really is such a critical time. I was a marriage and family counselor for 20 years, and people not recognizing that divinity within them is one of the greatest challenges probably in the outer world that's happening. And I'll just share with you, which I don't often share on a personal level, that when I was first decades ago, really getting into that place, I had such a unique experience in my meditation, just the most blissful moment I had had to this point. And it was like touching the face of God is the way I would have described it. And when I came back, and just in this, from the meditation, just in this moment of surrender, saying to my God self, what can I do to add to the light of the world? And our beloved Jesus, along with all of the company of heaven, but he manifested before my eyes and said, bring to the mankind of earth the realization of their own divinity. And that is absolutely the critical need of the hour, because once we connect with that, then we realize that all that maybe our fallen, fragmented, fear-based human ego has told us that we were is just absolutely a lie. It's
Mhm.
not true. It's not real. And when we start connecting with that part of our divinity, everything shifts. And this is what's happening on Earth at this time.
That's so beautifully said. And the thing that I so deeply, I so deeply feel about that, I had shivers just hearing that because I think that, doing what I do as well, one of the things that we do oftentimes is we speak very poorly to ourselves. And I hear a lot of people struggle in that way. So I think, just to your point, we have such an important role to play to support people really stepping into their divinity. And that means that sometimes I always remind people to listen is to love, to really show up for people in a way where you actually open your heart and become really grace in action. And I think to your point, I think that the world needs people to just slow down a little. We're all, just on any highway or any road these days, people just go so fast. And I think the one thing that I love about just slowing down is when we do that, this speaks to the point, is that we're able to sort of kind of just take a breath in and just be present in a different kind of way to honor. First of all, when we honor someone else, we honor ourselves. And this beautiful flow can start happening when we just calm down and settle. And I think to that point, I think that that's what the world needs more now than ever before, is to make sure we're listening with our heart and our soul. So just shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to sort of go into a little bit of who you are and how you arrived at this moment here. And you've been doing this for a very long time. You're sort of like to me, you're sort of the matriarch of the way showers of way showers. And you've been guiding people for many, 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 many decades now. And the one thing I wanted to sort of kind of focus in on is, I remember something that you had said when we were at the World Congress, and you had said specifically, when you first started meditating, no one was really sort of doing a lot of that at the time, in the United States and in probably Canada as well. But one of the things that touched my heart was just that, when you look at that today, what seems so maybe unique back then, today is so commonplace. And more importantly, we're going to keep going with all of this wonderful, wonderful sort of leveling up. And I think, just to the point, I'd love to just have you share a little bit of just the history of the era of peace and how you sort of are in this moment today.
Yes. In the beginning, and this was when I really started, it was in the 60s, and we were in the middle of the Vietnam War and, civil rights and voting rights and all of the challenges that were going on with the young people, and the hippies started coming to the fore and saying there was a shift going on in the culture, make love, not war, and this whole consciousness to shift from competition to cooperation and love. So very much like what's going on right now. It's interesting that this is really a reflection. And in the middle of one of my meditations, the beings of light, and I'll just share that mine, and it just happened naturally because this is who we are, my communication with the company of heaven, which is all of our sisters and brothers, from the ones that we perceive of as divine beings like Jesus and Mother Mary and Archangel Michael and Buddha, and all of those that we're familiar with, as well as legions of light from suns beyond suns, solar logos, cosmic beings, the entire angelic realm assisting us. This is what I refer to as the company of heaven. And my communication with them is not, it's open heart and mind telepathic communication. We were always supposed to be able to do that, and we just lost that. And so with that open heart and mind telepathic communication, the beings of light were saying that we are moving into a new level of consciousness, and that there's no such thing anymore as the mystery schools, the esoteric teachings that had to be hidden and concealed, or they were destroyed and lost. And they said, now it is time for all of the guidance coming from the heavenly realms, including the guidance from our own individualized God self, which I refer to as the I am presence, the divinity within each and every one of us. And you can certainly call that whatever you want, but we all have that divinity within us. And through that open heart and mind telepathic communication, the beings of light were saying everything now is to be esoteric, and they meaning available to the mass consciousness of humanity. And they asked me if I would be willing to share that information freely to anyone who felt drawn to it or had the ability to receive it. And I said, in deep gratitude and humility, that I would be more than willing to do that. And the important thing to me to know, and that I want everyone to know, is that they said that this was a cosmic moment and that I was specifically chosen to do this because there is absolutely nothing special and unique about me. That I am just an average human being. I don't have special extrasensory perception. I'm not psychic. I'm not channeling. I'm just communicating with the beings of light telepathically the way we always have. Just like in a prayer, only in a prayer we hear that. We don't always hear as clearly the response back, even though there's always a response and it comes back. This is kind of silly, but Lily Tomlin, who is, I tease about her being one of my philosophers, she said that when we talk to God, it's called prayer. Right. And when God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. That's the sad thing that's happened about that. Is that's kind of the distortion that we have put on that. But the reality is, it's just that we have fallen so far into this dense frequency that we don't hear. And most of us don't even believe it's possible. We've fallen in this place of some thinking that our physical body is who we are and losing that whole awareness. Well, that's the whole point of everything that's happening now. We are reversing the adverse effects of our fall from the consciousness of oneness and reverence for all life into separation and duality in that fear-based consciousness of our human ego. What's happening now is that we are reversing that, and we are beginning to remember who we are and why we're here. And this is a unique and very unusual shift that's taking place within all of us. And we're all here to help co-create that.
Yes. Well, I love how you positioned everything with how, from the Vietnam War to, all of the things that were shifting in the times from the 60s right through till now, which I think is such a powerful reminder. And what I love about you in particular is that you very much hold the door open. You spoke very with humility about being an average everyday sort of person. But I think that's actually the most powerful thing about you, is that you really do, you hold space in such a way where we are equal. And I think the thing that I feel, everyone's awakening in their own time. Some people have been doing this like you for a very long time. And then there's some people that might tune into this that are just feeling the little glimmers sort of start to happen. So wherever you are, there's no wrong way. There's no possible way for you to be doing it wrong in that way, as long as there's love blooming. And I think the thing that I love about what you just shared too is how, in the container of our consciousness, and I can speak to this personally for me, I sort of didn't really understand this part of me until after my own father's suicide. And, I would have never thought that I would be this version of myself doing what I do, speaking to wonderful people like you, or, sharing and amplifying a message of divine love the way that I do. But I think what's sort of interesting in all of this is, we do have a personal inner landscape, and we haven't really been given the permission when we were younger to explore it. And what I love about the times that we're living in is it's almost like remembering. We're sort of remembering who we really are. And as this cosmic energy comes in, and when you look at your beautiful picture, I mean, your picture is so much more interesting than mine. But I love it because it shows so much about how we're all uniquely different. And that is actually our power, that we're not meant to be the same. And I love how we can honor that with each other. And when we do, we actually have an incredible opportunity to create a whole new and co-create a whole new world of love. So that is I love just how you set that up for kind of where we can go with it. So I think just to add another question to this, I know in our times, the key thing that sort of seems to be, I'm in Canada, I'm a Canadian, I'm also a global citizen of the world, and also a cosmic citizen of the universe and omniverse, just to put that into perspective. And I am an interfaith minister, okay? So I honor all paths of divine love. So the thing that I want to sort of shift into is when you look at your sort of current position within the United States of America and just the political climate, and that's going on globally. So it doesn't matter if you're in Canada or if you're in Europe or, maybe over in Africa, wherever you are on the planet, we're all experiencing this hold on to divisive behavior in governmentals. And I think the thing that we need to sort of talk about a little bit is just up-leveling and shifting that into where we remember that we actually are collectively one love. So I wanted to ask you just, where you feel we're at and how we get to where we're going most effectively. And, just some ideas around what might be good in a spiritual practice to begin with if you're just starting, or what we can do now to help.
Okay. And when you say it's almost like remembering,
Yeah.
actually, it's exactly like remembering. That's what we're doing. And just very briefly, for us to grasp the magnitude of what we've been asked to do, the Earth is going through a unique experiment. Never in the whole of creation has a planet that's fallen to this level of separation and duality and fear been given an opportunity to move forward in the light this quickly. And we are moving, it's because of a cosmic shift of the ages is taking place when all creation is moving forward, and nobody wanted us to be left behind. So throughout creation, we're receiving this unusual assistance to help us move forward in the light. And because of that, no one was able to volunteer to assist with this process and to come into the physical plane to fulfill a facet of the divine plan that has not already succeeded in fulfilling that facet of the divine plan in some other time frame or dimensions. Prior to this, we'd volunteer to come into embodiment, and we'd see the karmic liabilities, and our God self would say we'd sometimes choose really challenging situations like our dire enemies to be our parents, and our God said, let's say, great, give it your best shot. If you succeed, fine. This time it's different. And the reason we were selected, the company of heaven said, for every one of us here, there were literally thousands and sometimes millions and billions of souls that were turned away. And that's not because we're so special and unique or more evolved. It's because of our unique lifetimes and our experiences, because of our tenacity and the way we were able to handle and deal with challenges. The company of heaven felt that we would be able to stay focused on the light in the face of the adversity that's taking place in the outer world more likely than the souls that were turned away. So we are in the midst of this tremendous shift of consciousness. And it is this duality going on. Our fragmented human ego, which is the fallen part of us that fell, lost awareness of the consciousness, our consciousness, and felt that because of the separation and the duality that we were going through, that this fear-based part of us could not move forward in the light in the way that we thought it would. So the difficult challenge that's going on is we have this part of us that our fragmented and fear-based human ego, this part of us that doesn't know about the God self, the divine self. And as that part of us starts coming to the fore again, and we start remembering and we start connecting, our ego feels threatened, and it feels like it's going to be destroyed, and it has to fight tooth and nail to hold on, and it's logical that it has that feeling because we've had so much misunderstanding that we used to talk about, we've taken vows of celibacy and vows of poverty, and we talked about the mortification of the flesh and trying to destroy the flesh so we can separate it from our divinity. There's been all that misunderstanding. So our ego, of course, thinks that we're trying to kill it. And of course, all life is valuable and ongoing. So that part of our consciousness, we need to start revering and honoring and saying, okay, you have no power. The divinity within me now is taking command, and I'm going to love you into the light. That just take that part of us into the light. All we have to do to see how our ego's resisting, if you try to improve your diet, you will immediately start craving every single thing you're not supposed to eat. Right. Because the ego feels like we're trying to kill it because we've had that kind of consciousness. So if we can know that the anger, the separation, the us against them, all of that is just that, like a small child, a wounded child, just throwing the biggest possible temper tantrum to keep us manipulated, to keep us controlled, to keep us. And so this is where we recognize the oneness. The oneness of all life is not revering the divinity within us or revering only the love within us. It's also revering every single part of life that we've misqualified in that distorted way. When you were talking about the way we're perceived and love, people, our relationships are reflections of how we feel and think about ourselves. If we don't honor ourselves, and why in the world would we when we've been told forever that we're worthless sinners and worms in the dust? It's hard to think. And even when you talk about being a divine presence, there's this backlash from the outer world that says that's blasphemous for us to think that. Every religion in some way or another is talking about us being children of God. Well, how could you not be a divine presence if you are a child of God? So this is just changing it from this really serious outer world hate and thing to recognize that this consciousness, this fear-based ego, has no power other than what we've given it. It has no power whatsoever over the light. Light is infinitely more powerful. So if we will just see that for what it is, and what helps me is when people are acting out in abusive powers and criticism and judgment and hate and this us against them, to think of that as just small children having a temper tantrum because they're terrified. They think they're not going to exist. So if we just flood them with love, and doesn't mean condoning bad behavior, but if we will just flood them with love, and we can even envision taking them into the divinity of our heart, because that is an invincible invulnerable part of who we are, and just see ourselves flooding them with so much love and light that they feel safe enough to just release into their own divinity. You know, we can't do this for them, but we can certainly enhance that part of them to come to the fore by holding that sacred space for them. And to shift into the consciousness, because it's absolutely the truth that everybody is doing the best they can according to their awakening and their wisdom and their knowing in that moment. It doesn't mean they don't have a higher potential, because we certainly all do. But in that moment, they're doing what they need to do. And it's always based in this survival thing. You know, I mean, the most greedy person in the world feels like if they don't have that for some way, they're not going to survive. And the reality, of course, is that the infinite love of God and all that our Father, Mother, God have is ours. And that is infinite and available to all of us. And it is only our fear-based consciousness that has created the lack and the limitation, because our thoughts and feelings are creative. So the thing that helps to see, as we're seeing the outer world and the hatred and the separation and the judgment and the criticism, nobody knows what anybody else's divine plan. And we have our godparents are this magnificent, all-encompassing presence within which every particle and wave of life throughout the whole of creation lives, moves, breathes, and has our being. And each individualized son or daughter of God is expressing, and there's a lot of variations of that going on now, of their individualized, what they are being guided or choosing or feeling compelled to express is their own individualized expression of the sons and daughters of God, and not another soul outside of them other than their own God self knows what the lesson is, knows why that's happening, knows what the experience is. So this judgment and criticism for what people are choosing and evolving in their own life is just a lack of understanding of the greater picture, which is each of us expressing through love and oneness. That's what matters. You know, that we really reach into that whole momentum of recognizing every particle and wave of life is sacred, even if it's not outpicturing in its original potential. For instance, hatred is not sacred. It is a radiance of love that has been distorted into this gross mutation of hatred that needs to be loved back into love again.
Right.
And that's true with all of the maladies and atrocities we've inflicted on each other around the world.
Well, I think the thing that is so beautiful in sort of, I think, just taking a moment to reflect on it too, and we've all been marginalized for whomever we're becoming oftentimes. I think shamed is a good word. Shamed or blamed for being some version of something that someone doesn't feel like you're allowed to be. And I think one of the things that I know, just speaking to, pejoratives of those sorts of things, when people go into pejoratives, calling people out of their name or, using words, to essentially amplify anything that's, discordal, for lack of a better word, that sort of brings that sort of ego into sort of bloom, if you will. I think the thing that I feel that's happening more and more is there's sort of like this countermeasure going on over here, that I think is people like you, people like me, people that are understanding that we're here for something. We've already done that. That's been done. And we're here to basically unite together in this new understanding as we remember that we are literally pieces of God. I mean, I think I just was recently in a meditation myself, and one of the things that I just feel is really important. No one's really saying that right now. At least I haven't heard many people use that specific word or phrase. We are literally pieces of all that is. And when you think about God in that way, I think as you sort of expand your awareness to what that is, what happens is you can fill yourself with more of it. And you start, I know when I was going through my healing after my father's suicide, that trauma, I was very guided to sort of drink in literally God. And I say that with great, compassion to anybody that's going through something, but to really allow yourself to sort of almost refresh yourself in your God particle, if you will. And maybe even if you need a metaphor or like an actual visual, maybe just turn on the switch, turn it on. And I think that what you're speaking to is just giving permission for people also to remember the divinity within oneself. And whatever has gone on in the past, it's already over. Let's start. Every day's fresh with no mistakes. So I think just your that was so beautiful. I think just sharing ultimately a vision of the fact that even the hardest, when you look at things and see the hardest things, they're just that, and that we are the ones that we came to sort of up level that. So beautifully said. So I think the thing that I wanted to sort of dive into next is I wanted to talk a little bit about, I know this is a little bit of a subject that's maybe a little different, but I'm really interested right now in exploring who we're making famous. And I think this is sort of, I mean, from politicians to Hollywood. And I think the thing I just want to focus in on, I'm very interested in getting back to some version. I grew up with, Olympians on cereal boxes that spoke beautifully about what's possible, inspiring words. So I think I really want to challenge people to really think about who we're making famous. So that means if you're amplifying someone's message out in the world, is it something that's going to basically create a common good, or is it going to discord? And I think I want people to just be mindful of what they're amplifying. So I wanted to ask you just about, what are your feelings on where we can go with who we're making famous? And I know for me, you're famous to me. You're who I'm aspiring to become more of. So I want to ask you about that a little bit.
Well, I think coming back to the basis of where your attention is, there
Right.
you are. So whatever we're focusing on, whatever we're empowering, and making people famous because we're pointing out all the negative things is just as destructive as making people famous that are because of their belief systems, and whether it's prejudice or white supremacy or all of these kinds of things. So what's so important for us now, and is just recognizing the oneness of all life. And when we're making our heroes people that aren't sharing through their behavior patterns, it isn't based in love, and it's perpetuating the discord and the negativity, that we're adding to the problems instead of the solution.
Right.
And most of that, I think, is a slight shift of consciousness. When we talk about, I said that we've been selected to be here because of our myriad lifetimes and what we learned during those lifetimes. Well, the way we learn through all those lifetimes is when we're making the decision to come in for another life experience through our God self. We've been everything. We choose different cultures and lifestyles and relationships and religions and all different nationalities. We've been everything. So for people to be genuinely believing that because this particular lifetime I chose to be born into a white body and it makes me superior to everybody else, our car is our body is the car we drive.
Yeah.
It's like saying I'm superior because I drive a white car, but if you drive a black car or a brown car, then you're not as good as I am. And it's just that silly. It is really just that silly. And it's the same thing that we're doing with who we're making our heroes. Look at what money does. Look what's going on right now in the power structure of the world, just because the person or the people are wealthy. Yeah. They are put in positions of thinking they have more authority or more power or whatever by wealth, and others because they're in Hollywood and they have more, or others because they're in sports, like you said, and have done all of those kind of things. And so for us to recognize, as you've been stressing here, the equality and the oneness, and for us, it's fine to enjoy Hollywood movies and to like one actor over another and all of those kinds of things. But when we start putting people in positions of power just because they have money and they have no outer world indication that they know even how to reflect the oneness of life or the equality or revere. Mm-hmm. I mean, how incredibly boring it would be for everybody to be white and everybody to be the same religion and everybody to have the same nationality or culture or beliefs about everything. The diversity and the oneness. And it's okay for us to agree to disagree, but most of the things that we are so attached to are from our fragmented and fear-based human ego. It's not even from the reality of the truth of who we are. Because when we're in that reality, recognizing that reverence and knowing that we are a cell in the body of God and we are just as valuable and important as every other cell. Look at our own bodies, talk about a reflection. We can't have all heart cells, we need to have different cells. We need to have blood cells. We need to have pancreas cells. We need to have brain cells. All of them are critical and vital to the whole. Well, that's like the family of humanity. We need all of that. We need those different levels of culture, but we're still all one. We're still really reflecting. And for us to honor the diversities and to revel in the joys of learning from each other, rather than just to step back and look at the bigger picture of, for heaven's sakes, to think that we have to kill somebody because they don't believe what we do or because they have a different culture, the wars and those talk about an abuse of power or the realization of our oneness of life. So what's happening now is all of that, everything that's not based in love, oneness, and reverence for life is crumbling away and becoming obsolete. Mm-hmm. And for us to know that the reason things look so bad in the outer world is because the light of God is increasing on earth. And we have created those miscreations. So God isn't going to wave a wand and say voila and transmute them for us. Nobody can do that. We've created them. And the way we transform them is that our life force is from the heart of God. It's our holy breath. It's the very beating of our heart, the electronic light substance. And our life force, we receive every particle and wave of it is pure God essence filled with love.
Right.
It enters our heart flame, the divinity of our heart with every breath. And when that pure life force enters our heart, then we choose through our gift of free will and our creative faculties of thought and feeling how we're going to qualify it. And if we qualify it with love, it adds to the light of the world. If we qualify it with anger or hatred or discord or judgment or criticism, it adds to the shadow. But what we haven't understood fully is that when we take that pure gift of life and misqualify it into hatred, We are responsible then. That energy goes out from us on electromagnetic current, adds to the chaos in the world.
Mhm.
Then it returns to us with our own individualized stamp. And we have to love it back into light,
Right.
back into its original perfection.
Yeah.
We've created the negativity. So what's happening now is the light of God is pushing to the surface everything that conflicts with that light. And it's coming up not to punish us, not to take us down the tubes, but
Mhm.
so we'll learn how destructive it is
Mhm.
and transmute it back into love.
Yeah.
Love it free, literally loving it free.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to look at that too, because really, and the thing is that's very interesting. The more you sort of work in these understandings too, be responsible for the energy you bring to every single moment, right? When we become responsible for what we're bringing or amplifying, what is really wonderful is around us that starts to sort of reflect back. So one of the things, the unconscious creator that I was before, the old me, the one that I look back at and go like, who was he? And I'm sure, we all have that old one. But the thing that's really interesting is once you sort of change the way you think, you change the words you're using, when you do become responsible for what you're amplifying. I like to look at life like a microphone. So, as a singer, everything I put out, I only put out peace, love, joy, happiness, and prosperity. And the best part is, guess who shows up around me? I mean, if it's not easier to show, how that is. And I know for you, that's what you do. And I think we're starting to get it, right? So as we sort of do more of this, what's wonderful is our life improves. And I think that's the best part. That's the sweetness of God sort of showing us what we're capable of when we honor the God that we have sort of surrounding us in all that is with our love. So I love how you brought such a, if you are putting out those, the most important thing to do is sort of to heal the inner being so that you start honoring yourself with self-worth. And then when you do that, then you can start sort of working toward amplifying better words, better actions in the outer world. So I love that. That's a powerful teaching, Patricia. Yeah.
Thank you. And that, that little shift of when people are doing that and acting out adversely, instead of assuming that
Yeah.
they should know better, even though in 90% of the instances we feel like they should know better and they should know it's not wrong, to really think, okay, they're doing the best they can
Right.
according to their wisdom, and think of them as a little small child that didn't know any better, that's just throwing this horrific temper tantrum because they're terrified.
Yeah.
And from that level of consciousness, I know in my own experience, it is so easy to just flood them with love and compassion and light, which will allow their I am presence, their God self,
Amen.
to start getting through, raising their head above the mud puddle of their temper tantrums and negativity at that time. It's really hard to be mean and nasty to somebody that's flooding you with love and light. There's an energy there. You feel that and you experience that. One time, one person I was counseling, and we were talking about that, and she was saying how difficult that was. And her son was a teenager and was just fighting her at every single thing. And she told him on this day that he had to clean his room. And so he just did his normal thing,
Yeah.
just screaming and yelling and throwing his temper tantrum, and stamped in his bedroom, closed the door, did his thing. And he came out with his basket full of laundry, and he just came up to his mother and he dropped the basket. He said, "Boy, Mom, I'm really acting like a jerk, aren't I?" And she said, if you knew how totally out of character that was for him to even acknowledge that. But that's what happens when they're flooded with love and light. Their I am presence can start telepathically sending forth ideas and communication that gets their attention. And
Yes.
we really can assist. We can't do it for them, but
Right.
what that does is hold the sacred space so more light can flow into their consciousness. And it
Yes.
doesn't mean everybody's going to automatically be this loving heart-based person, but it helps in the collective consciousness and adds to the light of the world instead of the problems and negativity of the world.
Beautiful. Well, I feel like that's just such a sweet spot to sort of say thank you for that. And then one of the things that I was going to do, so we have two guests that I've invited, and one of the things that we briefly, I told you a little bit about that. So I've invited one of my dear friends from Bermuda. So her name is Debbie, and she's just come on. And then we also have a beautiful gentleman that's a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine as well, from Denmark. So I thought with all of the divisiveness going on in the world, I thought it would be really powerful to bring in two beautiful people that, like all of us are equals, and just to add sort of a beautiful expansion into this moment. So I'm going to hit invite and let them in. So
Wonderful.
here we go. Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right. All right. They're just coming on. This is so exciting.
Good.
All right. So Fleming and Debbie, I think you're here. So you're going to have to turn on your camera and your sound. But welcome to our room. I see you here. Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
hello,
Debbie.
greetings.
How are you? Hi, Debbie and Fleming.
It's
Hi,
good to be here.
Patricia.
Mm. Well, first of all, welcome. So I was just telling Patricia that you're coming in, Debbie, from Bermuda, and Fleming, you're in from Denmark. And I really wanted to bring in just the beautiful sort of expansion energy of our wonderful planet. And I think, if there's anything on your heart, we've been having the most beautiful conversation about what we can do in these times of great change. And just leveling up and being peace, love, joy, happiness, and prosperity. So if there's anything, I know that you've done some reflecting on what you wanted to sort of bring into focus, but Debbie, if you maybe want to go first, anything you want to share with Patricia would be wonderful.
Thank you,
Sure.
thank you. Greetings, Patricia. Fleming, lovely to see you again. And Patricia, first of all, it's such an honor to be in this space and time with you. And you have been such a guide in my life in terms of tuning me in literally and figuratively to the vibrations that support us and guide us. My
Okay.
heart right now asks you, is there a moment, do you believe, when we can suspend our humanness and step fully into the space of our spirituality, the Mother, Father, God energy that holds us? I guess I'm a little impatient. That's where the question's coming from.
Well, you'll be happy to hear we can do that right here and right now, any moment with every breath we take. And part of it is just remembering that and connecting with that. There is no separation. There's no such thing as us and them. We are one with all life. And even connecting with the whole. In addition, I refer to our God self as our I am presence. And literally by saying, I am my I am presence, we instantaneously connect with the full consciousness of that part of our own divinity. And simultaneously, when we say, I am one with my Father, Mother, God, or I am one with the I am presence of every single person on earth, that also instantaneously occurs. So my suggestion is, and I know that sometimes we need to adjust what our expectations are of how that's going to manifest, because for instance, when we communicate with the company of heaven, so many people say, well, they could manifest before us. Why don't they just manifest before us? And the beings of light have said that is the least effective way of doing that. They've said when they manifest in front of us, we're going for the first 5 minutes and you can hear what they say. And then as soon as they're gone, we're saying, oh no, that's the way that light was shining on that curtain. So for us to know that, just intuitively feel that love expanding from your heart, breathe into the very heart of God. And to do that, all you have to do is take your breath and experience and know that your I am presence is doing that. We are truly powerful beyond our knowing, and we just have to reclaim that. That's the only thing that has to happen for you to do just exactly what you're asking about. Reclaim it.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
That's so beautiful. First of all, this is why I wanted to invite, because I think these are questions that everyone has, I think, which is why I really wanted to, not just my perspective in asking questions, but I think, Debbie, that's an excellent point of what we all need to hear and be reminded of and remember. So we were talking about remembering before you came on, so this is perfect. So thank you.
Right, right.
So Fleming, it's your turn now. So feel free to sort of have a moment with Patricia. Yes.
Thank you, and good to be here, and
Welcome.
very, very, very much a pleasure to meet with you, Patricia. And just a +1 to what Debbie said before. I have also enjoyed your other interviews and what you have on your Era of Peace website. So.
Thank you.
I have, you may have answered Debbie's question on some of my other questions, but so I will just pick another one here. But I would say besides the new discoveries that the academic science have made over the past decades, I also see more and more people talking about buzzing energies in the body, hearing high tones in their ears, seeing other colors of light or geometric forms that they haven't seen before, and other things that some refer to as ascension symptoms. So I was wondering if you could talk to these experiences and whether it's is this a part of the shift of the ages and 5D, or do you see an upgrade of humanity? Also that takes us more towards a higher intuition, telepathy, and these kind of things that go beyond the analytic mind and goes to the heart. So maybe 2 questions in one.
Okay. We are absolutely moving forward in the light. And what is occurring, we talk about people ascending and moving into higher frequencies, and usually we think of that occurring as they leave the physical body through the process that we refer to as death, and then they can move into higher schools of learning and ascend into higher frequencies. The difference this time is that we are ascending, but we're taking the earth and all humanity with us. So literally, we are transforming from carbon-based planetary being and substance into 5th dimensional crystalline solar light. And that if we tried to do that instantaneously, like say Jesus did with the resurrection, he transfigured from his carbon-based planetary body into his 5th dimensional crystalline solar light. And even when Mary Magdalene came to him at the tomb, he said, "Do not touch me, I am not of this world," because he's vibrating at this higher frequency. And what happens with us, if we did that, it would be like trying to move through a lightning bolt and we'd be evaporated probably in that frequency. So it's incrementally happening. And there are many activities of light. Every time someone adds to the light of the world through love, I mean, even things that we may not consider, just admiring a beautiful sunset or making a beautiful meal for your family or doing your best job at work, everything that we do that enhances life on the planet is adding to this acceleration. And what the beings of light have shared at this point, that because of the need of the hour and because of how close we are to these huge quantum shifts, that our I am presence for each of us individually, our divinity, is raising the frequency of vibration, the maximum that we can withstand in every 24-hour period. And so the ringing of the ears, the feeling kind of energy, or the tingling of your hair, or, different things that happen, all of that could be part of this ascension process. Now, I always caution people not just to assume if it's something that could possibly be a medical thing, be sure and check it all out. But if they've checked everything out and there's no indication that anything's going wrong with your body, then in all probability, it is just this acceleration into higher frequencies of vibration that's happening at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about the scientific end of it and whether people are, it's all interrelated. The scientists are waking up too, I mean, they for years talked about 98% of our DNA was junk DNA. Well, of course, it's not junk DNA. God doesn't make junk. It's just DNA. They haven't been able to figure out what in the world it does. Now, as we're moving into higher frequencies and higher vibrations, they're tapping into higher and higher sacred knowledge too. There's so much concern about AI at this moment and about it taking over humanity and all of this stuff. Well, AI, of course, is just based on what the scientists know. And of course, it's programmed, that's been programmed, and then the AI goes through everything and combines it all and makes a decision. But if it doesn't have the truth, if it doesn't have the full knowledge of who we are and where we're from and all of that, then it's not going to come up with the right answer. It can come up with a answer, but our God self, our I am presence, even our brain structure at this moment is just infinitely more knowledgeable and stronger than AI will ever be, because it doesn't have the correct programming into it. What we're doing is waking up the dormant programming within us in those other 98% of the 12 solar strands of DNA that we have. It's waking up and coming to the fore. So it's a process. We can be courageous and curious and interested in it all at the same time. One of these days, we're going to look back and say, this was really fun and we're glad we volunteered to do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I think that those questions, is there anything else, Fleming, that you wanted to just say in response?
Well, no, I think it was a good answer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know I asked a couple of questions in one, so thanks for capturing everything.
yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Beautiful. Well, I think more than anything, I think that we've sort of covered, I think just a beautiful snapshot of our sort of current times in a timeless sort of moment. Is there anything else, Debbie, that you wanted to share, Fleming, before we let you go?
Debbie?
There you go.
Just gratitude, again, Patricia and Paul,
Of course.
that you hold the space for us to realize our true nature.
Yes.
And we humanity, as you say, we're bringing everyone along, but we need leadership, and you have been leaders, and I'm grateful for that. That my life has crossed paths with yours in this moment.
Thank you. I just want to mention, because I know that this is really a challenging time for people in the outer world sometimes. And we, as I mentioned before, and Paul has talked about, we're here because we, the beings of light, the company of heaven, our Father, Mother God, thought we had a better chance of succeeding in doing this, in being able to stay focused on the light in face of all of the diversity or the adversity that would be pitted against us. And the beings of light have actually said, and this is what I want people to really hear, the greatest privilege and honor of any son or daughter of God in any level of evolution at this time is physical embodiment on planet Earth during this cosmic moment of ascension.
Yeah.
So sometimes our lives don't feel very blessed. We're in the middle of horrific challenges.
Yeah, right.
We are.
Well, and to the point, we're not done yet. We're just getting this party started. Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, beautifully
We
said.
haven't even gotten to the full expansion of the good stuff yet, which is coming.
So exciting. And Fleming, just feel free to.
Yeah, I think for me it was a pleasure to to meet both of you. I know you, Paul, but Patricia, it was an honor to be here, and I just read some of your material earlier today, and I really it also struck me with all the negativity going on in the world, that you also said that this is pushed to the surface to be transmuted by the light. So this was a wonderful statement I think for many people to take.
Thank you. And it has no power over the light. That's what's important for us. The light is infinitely more powerful than any of the discordant, mutated human miscreations that we have created, either deliberately or inadvertently, on this planet.
Beautifully said. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. And I love that you, Debbie, and you, Fleming, know each other as well from holding space together. So that's the cool thing about everything. Everything's interconnected with love. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
It sure is.
Well, you guys, you take care, and I'm going to stay on
Thank
with
you.
Patricia, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for your blessings. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that was wonderful. I feel it was special to sort of bring in, they were so excited to be here, and as we were excited to have them. So it's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was wonderful.
Well, I think just to close out into, just a blessing and a prayer, just as we move off into the future of, I think ultimately our co-creation. I think the thing that I feel very guided to sort of do is just ask for just anything imparting that is a blessing or a prayer or an intention even, and anything that you feel on your heart. And then let's just end with that for the moment and press pause and we'll carry on.
Okay. Just for a minute, take a deep breath and go within to the divinity of your heart. And affirm through the full level of your divine consciousness, I am my I am presence. I am one with my Father, Mother, God. I am one with the I am presence of every person belonging to or serving the earth at this time. And as one collective child of God, we affirm, I am that I am. I am the open door for the light of God. And with every breath I take, I am making the conscious choice to add to the light and love of the world through my thoughts, words, actions, feelings, memories, and beliefs. And so it is, beloved I am. Beloved I am. Beloved, I am that I am. Now knowing that with every breath you take, you are connected to the divinity within the heart of all humanity. And as you are lifted up, all life is being lifted up with you.
Beautiful. Let's just beautifully just say thank you, and we will beautifully carry on this work and this devotion and this love, expanding love. So thank you so much, Patricia.
You're welcome. Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure being with you.
An honor, absolutely.